Good day, Internet. This is DTNS Live for Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. From Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
From Studio 7 in Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
Here in Salt Lake City, I'm Scott Johnson.
I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
Daily Tech News Show Live is made possible by its listeners. Like Soylent Green, it's made of people. Like that Charlie dude, Justin Zellers, Carmine Bailey, and brand new patron Lara. Lara.
Oh my gosh, we love new patrons. Laura, welcome to the crew. So glad to have you. And welcome to all of you to DTNS Live. This is the show where we discuss the tech news to help us all understand it, kind of parse, kind of unpack, and then come back together and say, okay, we all learned a little something. How's everybody doing today?
We break you down so we can build you back up again.
That's right.
Yeah. It's easy.
Scott,
Sometimes
Scott
it's
Johnson,
easier.
we're going to break you down on this show. That's for sure.
Well, that's good. It's easier to take things down than build them back up. I understand. But here's the thing.
Who ordered the Big Red?
I know this is a trope here on this show, but it was 22 degrees today, and next week it'll be 73 here. So don't ask me what's going on.
Celsius?
Yes, Celsius. No, Fahrenheit. The big F. The big F,
Get in
baby.
the boiling pot now, man. You don't have long.
I'm so excited I can barely stand up.
Because it's about 22 Celsius here. So when you said 22, I was like, oh, yeah, that's about the same as here for some reason. And then 73.
Well, it's, my Apple Watch says 76, high of 78 today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing the Fahrenheit like an American. Good job, like me and you.
Thank you. Yes. I mean, I'll take it. Anything in the 70s, I will not complain at all.
Sure.
My niece-in-law, my nephew's wife, they moved from Australia to Illinois, and she is like dealing with the fact that it's like 32 high of one day, then 62 the next day, Fahrenheit, and all of that. So, yeah.
Here we are.
It's a wonderful world.
It is a wonderful world, and it turns out that technology happens all over the world, no matter what the temps are. So with that, let's get into the quick hits.
Speaking of Europe, the European Commission announced it has found Google and Apple in violation of the Digital Markets Act. Google is charged with continuing to prefer its own products, specifically by preventing developers from freely directing customers to alternatives to Google Play. Apple has been ordered to improve interoperability. In fact, the EC listed 9 features in iOS that it needs to improve its interoperability with. They include peer-to-peer Wi-Fi, NFC, notification handling, and device pairing, among others.
One more thing to mention from yesterday's Nvidia GTC event is the new PCs running on Blackwell Ultra chips, which let you run bigger AI models locally. The DGX station has 874 gigabytes of unified memory with the CPU and GPU on the same main board, and an 800 gigabit per second NIC lets you create a mini cluster of multiple machines. The DGX Spark is the new name for Project Digits, which NVIDIA announced back at CES. Dell, Lenovo, and HP are all going to make PCs under these names.
Hey, a CES thing that's shipping.
Whoa.
Look, how about that?
Happens.
Nice.
Jeez Louise.
Google announced the Pixel 9a with a 6.3-inch OLED display and slightly wider bezels than the flagship model, Pixel. It has a larger battery, loses the camera bar, has a plastic back instead of the glass back. Will launch with Android 15. You get 7 years of OS updates. Also can do Gemini Nano for local processing. The 9a starts at a very affordable $499, shipping in April, and you can pre-order it someday. Google hasn't given a pre-order yet, told The Verge. We're checking on a component quality issue that's affecting a small number of Pixel 9a devices.
Yeah, maybe a small number.
Yeah,
but
but
media outlets
good for them
didn't get
not shipping it until they're sure that it's a small number.
So I applaud that.
Flashpoint reports that cybercriminals stole 2.1 billion credentials in 2024 using info-stealing malware, accounting for 2/3 of the 3.2 billion credentials stolen globally, mostly from Windows machines. The Redline strain was behind 43% of infections, according to Flashpoint, and Infostealers also contributed to breaches of 165 Snowflake customer environments, you might recall, affected some pretty major companies, AT&T and Ticketmaster among them.
Razer announced Wyvrn, but don't spell it with any vowels unless you count Y as a vowel. It's Wyvrn. It is a game development platform featuring AI QA Copilot. As you might tell from the name Copilot, it automates bug detection and reporting for Unreal, Unity, and C++ engines. The idea is to cut down your QA time. You can get through QA 50% faster, and it'll cost you 40% less. Wyvrn also includes AI Gamer Copilot, offering real-time gameplay advice and upgrades to Razer's Sensa HD haptics and THX Spatial Audio Plus. That's spatial, not special. Spatial Audio Plus.
It is also special, though.
It is. That's true.
Yeah, but not everything that's special is spatial. But everything that's spatial is
true.
special. If I have that right.
Right.
Yeah. Media streaming service Plex is raising the price of its premium subscription for the first time in 10 years, a whole decade. Monthly cost will increase from $4.99 to $6.99, with the annual rate from $39.99 to $69.99, and a lifetime pass from $119 to $249.99, starting on April 29th. If you're like, what is even going on? Isn't Plex free? I said the same thing because I access many of my friends' media servers, and now I will have to pay. But you know what? I beggars can't be choosers. Plex is also launching a $199 per month remote watch pass option and updating its privacy policy. Yum Brands, which owns Taco Bell, KFC, and Pizza Hut, is partnering with Nvidia to integrate AI into its restaurants, which is a first for Nvidia, at least in the space. The idea, in the restaurant space, rather. The idea is AI-driven order taking, think drive-through, where somebody doesn't have to, talk into a mic to get your order, although they might give it to you at the end of the drive-through. Using its Byte platform, Yum wants to also get into computer vision, performance analysis. The rollout is set to expand over 500 restaurants in the second quarter of this year, so it's a pretty limited rollout when you consider that, Taco Bell has 7,700 U.S. locations, as of the end of 2023. But they're trying it out. 5 KFC restaurants in Australia are also testing voice AI tech in drive-thrus, said Yum Brands. So I wanted to ask the panel, it's possible, because I live in California where apparently some of these Taco Bells have been tested. Haven't been to a Taco Bell super recently, but it's possible that I have come across this technology and I just didn't realize it, which I guess is the point.
I mentioned this on Daily Tech News Show Briefing, but I went to Taco Bell a week and a half or so ago, and I was impressed by how clear and distinct the person was at the drive-through speaker, and how efficient they were in getting my order and hearing what I said.
Did you know ahead of time? Were you doing a test?
When I got around the corner to the drive-through pickup, all I can say is the person handing me my food who was operating that didn't have the same demeanor as the voice I heard at the drive-through. So I don't know. I don't know if it was AI or not, but it was impressive if it was.
Yeah, I've yet to have any experience like this where it's AI, although I'm a little torn on it. Like I need to see this thing in action. I'm sure they're going to do a ton of testing, but so many different voices are weird from the drive-up window. Whether that's part of the system or not, I guess we'll find out. But like being able to better accurately represent what I ordered is really awesome sounding to me. And then all of the false positives and weirdness you get with AI is also kind of discouraging to hear. I got Taco Bell today. They got my order wrong. So perfect day for this discussion, by the way. I'm holding up
that was humans that got your order wrong.
Exactly. There was no AI involved, but this spent packet of mild sauce I'm holding up, the listeners can't see, that is representative of my heart today because it just did not go well.
Oh.
Yeah. And I kind of regret it. I regret it
His
for the
heart
usual
burns
reasons.
with regret, if that's what you mean.
I regret it for a few reasons, but number one is that it just was a poor experience. Could that improve? Maybe this will do it. I don't know.
What's interesting is that for me, this is just the next step because every Taco Bell I've been to within the past month all use kiosks where you punch. You can go to the counter and order, but there isn't a person standing there waiting for you, so you have to wait for them to come out of the kitchen. But you would use the little kiosk to order your thing. I see that as just sort of the next step on making that a little more frictionless. Also, at least from late last year and early this year, there's still supposedly a shortage of workers available in a lot of service industries. So this could be just a way to sort of shore up what they have in terms of manpower that they have without necessarily diminishing the experience.
Yeah, I think it makes things more efficient, and it's not just about the drive-through. It's not just about taking orders. It's also about freshness of ingredients and where they are, and using computer vision to tell like, hey, it recommends that if we move this bin over here, we'll be able to speed up the making of the tacos.
Or we're running low on ranch at pizza.
Yeah, right. Yeah, totally. All of that kind of stuff.
I mean, the fast food experience, I don't think anyone is under the illusion that it's not, by and large automated at this point. Obviously, it varies by company, but I feel like this is perfect for, I don't know if it's Nvidia, who's going to crack the code more than any other company. I know McDonald's was... what was the name of the company? Automated Order. It was IBM, but it was called Automated Order Taker, which apparently it decided to bail out on in June, just to find a vendor that worked better. I think we're in the playing in the sandbox days of this stuff, although nobody really wants to eat sand. But if you're going to, you would want the experience to be as streamlined as possible. When did I go through a drive-through most recently? I don't remember where I was, but it was not that long ago. It was probably Burger King, because I have a Burger King thing. And it's you're kind of leaning out the window and talking to somebody and waiting for them, and sometimes you kind of get that where you're like, I think you got my order. I almost never have an issue with that. But at the same time, that person could have a job that probably is more worthwhile for them.
Yeah, well, the good news is too, they already, a lot of them anyway, have these screens at the drive up where they give you your total and show the items. And they often ask,
does your order look correct?
Yeah, they say, does it look correct? Exactly. That's relatively new. I mean, new in the last probably 10, 15 years, newish.
Last several years.
It feels like that's already there to then work well in addition to AI assisted order taking. So and the idea is that we're not going to be yelling into the void and hoping by the time we get to the window it was correct. I think we're going to have these indicators. We're going to see that it's correct and be able to go, actually, that looks wrong. This thing will be smart enough and conversational enough to go.
It's not going to say, I am sorry, we don't have tacos. Because,
right.
It just hallucinated the fact. These are definitely on rails. These aren't just, all-purpose ChatGPT things.
And Clinton in chat says Chick-fil-A ordering is the best. You order on your mobile phone before you go. You scan the QR code when you get there. Food's ready by the time you drive up to delivery. Now, other restaurants also do this.
That was my experience at Taco Bell, except I didn't have to scan a QR code. I just drove up and gave them my name, and they said, "Is this your order?" And I said, "Yes." And then my food was ready when I got up to the window.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And
Thank God it wasn't that Tom Merritt thief who just says, "Yeah, that's me."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They give you a number on the Taco Bell app, but they didn't ask me for it because they're like, "Well, this is the only Tom."
And then, going back to like just the manpower availability, if you don't have to have someone dedicated to taking orders, even with the mobile headsets I always see them wear, like they can help speed up the delivery of food from like the production station and get it packaged and ready. So they're not necessarily glued to one space, and they're a little more flexible in what they can do and duties.
One thing I'm curious about, Scott, are we assuming, since they're partnering with Nvidia, that there will only be 3 Crunchwrap Supremes each day, and you'll have to make sure you get there early?
Everyone's going to buy Crunchwrap Supremes and power their Bitcoin mining, Tom. That's how that's going to go.
And there's a whole shortage. The market will collapse.
I assume this is just right along the lines of, hey, Nvidia's making AI chips for everybody, and that could include this kind of this industry. It could include any industry. I think they're trying to position themselves to be extremely diversified on application.
Yeah.
And why
Yeah,
not fast
Nvidia's
food?
kind of late to this game, honestly.
Yeah.
I was surprised in this CNBC article that Wendy's is partnered with Palantir, which is known for government contracts and like intelligence work. But maybe that's what they're partnering with them on. Maybe
Military
Wendy's,
grade fast food.
It's a militant fast food chain, okay?
They want to get those
They get
secret
things done on
11
time.
herbs and
Listen, there's-
spices.
There's
Oh,
a reason why
KFC.
Wendy's burgers are square.
That's true.
Why is that?
No, I am just that's
Think about it, Tom. Think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, put your mind to it. It'll make sense.
Also, by the way, Yum Brands. Everybody says KFC, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut. Everyone forgets Habit.
You know
Habit
what?
burger is a good burger.
I agree. Although my wife broke a tooth there once
I've
on a
never
weird
been
piece of
there.
meat. But other than
Okay,
that, great.
that's not a good recommendation.
Great
Yeah,
place
no,
otherwise. Other than that. Other than $2,000 worth of dental work, it was a great
oh
experience.
jeez.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's
It's an
a lot of
expensive
fun.
burger.
I think
Yeah,
I'll stick to
really.
the veggie tacos.
I have never had
Their
that experience
burgers are
I had.
made of diamonds, but you got to watch out when you,
But hey.
you bite into one because you
at
might
the
end up
resale.
with a dentist.
Yeah. Look at the positive side of everything here, folks.
Well, I'm not sure what's positive for the VR market about our next story. Tom, Counterpoint Research released its estimates for VR market share overall. So what do we got?
Counterpoint estimates the global shipments of VR headsets fell 12% year over year in 2024. That would be bad news enough, but that's the third consecutive year of declines. Counterpoint did note that the enterprise market, when broken out separately, does better, but didn't say what the numbers are. So we don't know if that just means it fell less or if it actually grew. Meta finished the year with 84% of the market. Yeah, 84% of the market is Meta. Sony was in second with 9%. And the next three in market share in order, Pico. No? Okay. DPVR?
Nope.
No.
You know,
Apple. Oh,
Yes.
you've
Oh,
heard
I
of
know
them.
Apple.
Heard of
I know
them.
Apple.
Yeah.
Yeah, they went down to like 2%. Looks like smart glasses are probably the better bet here. But Sarah, I know you're a big VR headset user and enthusiast. So
I
I don't know. How does this make you feel?
Well, it doesn't make me feel really any type of way unless
Yeah.
for some reason the MetaQuest wound down operations and there wasn't a good alternative. You know, I
Right.
talk all the time. The MetaQuest is really the only headset that I use. The Apple Vision Pro, I have one. It's up behind me, and I use it mostly for media consumption. But it's a little clunky. It's heavier than the Quest, and you also have to have the battery pack on you. And the MetaQuest is just has the better ecosystem, at least for the stuff that I'm interested in, which is mostly exercise apps. You know, move the coffee table, exercise in the living room. It's fun. And I don't care about the headset part of it being wonky, you look silly type thing, because this is not something I'm wearing out in the wild. It doesn't matter to me. And yeah, I get some like kind of prints on my face for a bit afterwards, but if I'm exercising, I'm probably going to take a shower afterwards. It's just, it's not a big deal to me. But before I ever got the Quest, which I did for a Live With It segment episode years ago, I was like, VR, not into it, don't care. I'm not a gamer. And I think a lot of people still feel that way. It's like, oh, it's for like, I don't know, hardcore gaming or like some other coding thing that I don't do. VR. Even friends of mine who, you know, they're not living under a rock or like the VR headset, like you put that on and like, what are you doing in there?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I mean, it's do all sorts of things.
Nobody.
Anything
We still
your
don't.
mind
We still don't
Yeah.
have a killer app for anything outside of games. Feels like anyway. Like everybody
That's
talks about.
been the thing for
Yeah.
years. I've been
Yeah.
saying like there's possibilities here, but somebody needs to figure out that killer app or that thing that everybody will go, oh, that's what I want it for, and that hasn't happened.
No.
and it feels like
Well,
it
and
can.
there are a few of those, I think, from MetaQuest. Sorry to cut you off, Roger, but like Supernatural. Once I found Supernatural, I was like, oh, okay, I finally get it. I still love it. It's great. I mean, it's not for everybody,
Sure.
but it's
That's the
that
thing,
was the
it's not
killer
for
app for
everybody.
me that went like, oh, okay.
But the
This
killer
is
app has to
actually
be
super
for
fun.
everybody.
Yeah, or as
Like-
close to everybody as you can get, right? Like, is
No, I mean, what's a killer app for everybody? It's like, I don't know, a messaging network. It's like, you don't need a VR headset to do that. You know?
But it also feels like a commitment, and not just in terms of money, but just like once you have it on, you need to have this.
You can't do anything else.
Yeah, you're committed to it, and so a lot of people, my wife has mentioned this before. It just feels like now you're locked into it, and if you spent the money, you feel obliged to use it. But like, say, like if you had an experience, well, if you have a phone, you can easily look at it and put it down. But like once you have a headset on, like I mean, yeah, you could take it off, but it just feels. It
Or
feels
you
like,
can have your eyes projected on the front of it.
yes,
and, you can, and with mixed reality headsets, you can see the world around you. I really think when you follow that line of logic, it comes down to most people going, "Yeah, but I look silly." Like I don't want to be locked into using it where no one's looking at me all the time. Many people are saying that. And if I can use it in lots of different ways and walk around and not have to take it off, I don't want people to see me in it. So you either have to be like Sarah, where you're like, no, I found a great use for it, where I don't care. People aren't going to see me anyway. Or you're just not going to wear it. And that's why I think smart glasses are the growth area for this, because people are like, ooh, those just look like glasses. People don't know I have them on.
Yeah.
And it's not the commitment that you're talking about, Roger.
But at the same time, there's an immersive experience that you get with VR, and some people aren't into that. But it is when it clicks in your brain, it's like, this is really cool. You truly do go somewhere else. I'm not in my living room. I'm, in Indonesia somewhere, on a lily pad, like exercising, where like, with lasers in my hands type thing. I mean, it wouldn't work the same way in an AR situation. Some sort of pass-through situation would bring me back to like, oh, I'm about to hit my coffee table. I have to get to work. This is dumb.
Yeah.
There
The
is
pass-through
something about
you have
going
pass-through on the
somewhere.
Quest. You just have to turn it on to see it. So, and same thing with Apple
Yeah.
Vision Pro, right? You can have it off. I always think
can.
the pass-through is for when you're like, well, I want to take a break, but I don't want to have to take the device off because I want to go right back to something. That gives you the flexibility to
Sure.
not feel locked in.
But that does, that also breaks the magic. I mean, even on, for anybody who's not, had a Quest before, it's like, even when you first turn it on and you're deciding, okay, I'm ready. Where am I going? Of my downloaded apps, or my installed apps. It's like, you're in a room, and it's a room of your choosing, and, it's 360 degrees, and it's like, you have gone somewhere else. And that's the fun of it for me. Not everybody wants that though. And I think for, a lot of folks, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's almost like if you wanted it at this point, you would have invested in it. And I think that's why Counterpoint is showing such a decline.
well, all the people who want it already bought one.
Have one.
Yeah.
Or a large number of them do. Well, on TMS today, Scott and I were talking about, I was comparing this to handhelds, where you look at the handheld gaming market and you don't say like, nobody wants it. You say, oh, that's a niche device that more people want it than I would have expected. I think VR is the opposite, where it's actually the same, but you're looking at it and going, well, we thought it was going to be a massively popular thing, and instead it's a niche device.
Yeah, I think that's true. It's interesting that when you brought that up, I've been thinking about that a little bit all today, because we do think of it, those of us who are kind of enthusiasts about the new handheld market, and even some of these retro handhelds that are flooding the market right now, it's having this crazy resurgence and interest, but you do have to kind of pull the camera out and go, it's niche. I guess everything's niche at some point because you're comparing it to something else. But it's dwarfed by, let's say, the PC market that it's siphoning from, in the same way that Switch sales are dwarfed by the PlayStation market, traditionally, or at least in the last generation. These things can switch places and things. But the nice thing about the handhelds is their killer app is already a thing that exists. They basically just said, hey, what if you could take that thing you've already invested in and take it with you somewhere, and for a reasonable price? So far, nobody's got that kind of value offering with VR. Nobody's quite figured out a way to say, you have to have it for this. Your life will never be the same. There's no other way to get this out of a thing than if you do VR. And so I always just kind of come back to, this will boil down to how small and how price perfect they can make a device that will do what we want VR and AR to do. I don't think there's a world where both don't coexist. And they don't look any weirder on us than a pair of Ray-Bans, and they do amazing things for a reasonable price. Now we're starting to talk smartphones 2007. Now we're starting to talk tablets 2010. You're starting to talk PCs late 80s, early 90s, where things make sense across the board for a device like that to exist.
It makes sense.
I'm sorry, Roger, real quick. I looked up the number. PC handhelds, gaming handhelds, 6 million to date at the end of 2024. VR and mixed reality headsets, 9.6 million.
Wow.
So there's actually more VR headsets selling, but they're pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's there needs to be a way for someone who's casual, like, hey, I'm really that looks interesting, but I don't want to invest in the money or just the setup because I feel that it might be cumbersome in my studio apartment, or I have pet. Like, there needs to be, with tablets and phones, they're cheap enough devices where with us, with people who've never used a smartphone, you can spend like $200 and get a reasonably functional smartphone that does all the things people rave about, right? Like mapping, web surfing, all that stuff. And then they can move up to a higher tier phone when they think they use it for something they really enjoy.
I think we're comparing apples and oranges, though. Like laptops, phones, those are multi-use devices, and not just like a few uses, like almost endless uses. VR is not. It's a narrow number of uses, multiple uses, but not unlimited uses like a laptop or a phone. And I think you're better off thinking of it that way, and then you get a better idea of what it is for. It is for productivity. People definitely use it in the enterprise for lots of different things. It is for productivity desktop. Some people do use it as a screen, and it's for entertainment. And entertainment writ large, meaning not just video games, but like Sarah uses it for media consumption and fitness and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see how it all pans out. I'm hopeful for it. I just don't think we're quite there.
I think that's it. I think this is it. I'm ready to call it. Like, this is what VR is. It's not a failure. This is what it is.
But it's reached its natural
it has
height.
Specific uses.
We'll have new wearable tech that does other things that might be more popular, and smart glasses is an example of that. But the VR headset is this.
It's reached its natural.
Love it for what it is.
You know what? That is a really great way of putting it. I would tag this on real quick. And that is that, phones have become the most played gaming devices in the world, kind of by accident. They're good enough. They're not great. The controllers kind of stink. Nobody loves that. We have more on that later on a different story. But that's just the way of it. And so all the other benefits outweigh that one little weakness, and that one weakness is livable, so you live with it. I think VR will go through the same thing. We're going to get to a point where fidelity, number of polygons, or how much we see of the outside world at any given time may not matter as much as how light and cheap it is. So.
And the ultimate decider is what people use it for, not what it's capable for. I think people get caught up with VR of like, yeah, but it can do, could also do.
Are you doing that?
But
Great
what are
point.
people actually willing to use it for?
Yep.
Well, if you got feedback like that, you can send it to us on social networks. We are at DTNS Show on X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Mastodon, and at Daily Tech News Show on TikTok and YouTube.
A recent study found that YouTube influencers have outsized impact on the video game industry. So, Scott, what's the haps here?
All right. So this has been a thing for a little while now. Nothing new about streamers, influencers, that sort of thing. And this study is pretty interesting. It was published in the Journal of Marketing Science. It's titled Opposing Influences of YouTube Influencers, Purchases and Usage Effects in the Video Game Industry. The study was basically made the conclusion based on data it got from Steam and YouTube, where changes in advertising policies forced YouTubers to delay publishing videos, giving researchers a clear look at their impact. Here's what the study found. YouTube gaming content increased playtime. We all kind of assumed that, or that's what everyone's been assuming, including the publishers. But it can also discourage game purchases, specifically for narrative-driven experiences. So let's say, I don't know, a Souls-like game that you would buy. Let's call it Elden Ring, and let's say it's a PlayStation version of the game. Let's say you're a PlayStation owner and you really have an influencer you like and you love watching his game playthroughs. The idea is that he would play it, and in theory you would go, ooh, fun. My favorite guy's playing it and I want to play it. I'm going to go buy it. That does happen, but not nearly at the rate they thought it would. And in fact, it may be discouraging the purchase of those games, which are now, $70, because people are getting that narrative experience and the additional commentary of the person they follow. So they're getting more value out of it than they may have if they just bought the game and played it themselves. So watching a full storyline, not great for the business. Multiplayer experiences, small indie titles, a lot of repeatable content, that sort of thing, roguelikes, those kinds of games, they do seem to be benefiting from this level of exposure. There has always been this hope by the publishers and developers, if they shell out a bunch of free keys to people of various levels of influence, all the way from the top down to a small little guy and people in between. I'm one of those people. I get codes all the time. I have 3 codes I have to play this week to review on Thursday. It's a very common thing now to have happen, and then you talk about it on your podcast, you review it, or you show video gameplay. In my case, it's more talking about it, and then people decide if they want to buy it or play it. There's big benefits to that. And like I said, multiplayer, great. Story games sounds like less so based on this study. Also, one thing that people don't consider, it's a bit of a risk. If your game, if it's got a problem that you didn't take care of before launch and you know it, and a really big streamer / influencer finds it and they trash your game, you run the real risk of the whole thing just running into the ground. You will lose lots and lots of money based on one person's single comment in one YouTube or Twitch stream on a Saturday afternoon. It's kind of seismic how that can happen. Now, again, that's usually on the very high end of influencers, people with hundreds of thousands of concurrents and that sort of thing watching their content. There's lots of room for other stuff in between, but that's a thing that can happen. So there's always been that risk. But even if they just have it out for you and they do that, that can tank sales of your game, or at least severely limit them. I suspect the overall benefit of flooding the market with keys, codes, and requests for influential voices to play their games, I think the overall benefit is still there. There are going to be hits and misses, but for the most part, this sort of helps levitate all ships, the rising tide in this case. But I do think I think it's worth looking at these details, because it does show that this is more complicated than just simply a guy who was positive about our games, therefore, ergo, we have more sales. I don't think it's that simple, and I think this data bears that out. So, on the one hand, I expect you'll just keep seeing this. This is what we do now. This isn't like it's a whole industry unto itself, just sort of beneath the layer of the game industry. It's not going anywhere, not anywhere fast. Studies like this aren't going to change that trajectory. But I do think it's good for both gamers, publishers, and influencers to understand that data isn't so black and white. Sometimes this stuff gets granular and weird.
So I have a question for you, Scott. Do you see these influencers sort of taking the place of your traditional game reviewers, whether it's from like an IGN, whether it's, from an established, publication or review, where these games where you go to the person you enjoy playing a game to get their read on a new title, rather than going to like an IGN review where they give you a number score?
In a lot of cases, they already have. You've seen games media struggle and buckle in a lot of cases under the weight of all of this, not being able to attract advertiser dollars that are otherwise going to these influencers, either with special deals and partnerships, or just straight up, their advertising, putting more of their budget on YouTube and that sort of thing. So you're already seeing that happen. Those few that remain, the IGNs of the world, who have a larger. This is like regular media world, by the way. It kind of mirrors it. You still have your Washington Post and your New York Times, and they'll stick around probably in perpetuity. But a lot of little guys go away, and I think we've already seen a ton of that. You'll see more of that erosion. There have been layoffs here recently. Kotaku was hit with a huge wave of layoffs in, I think, the last week and a half. And they're a big, pretty big source of information for a lot of gamers. Where people are going is to their favorite influencers. There's a whole generation of kids who are growing up through that change And their expectation is there is no place I go read an article. That sounds ridiculous to them. They don't care about a grade. You know, this is an 80 out of 100. They don't care. They're going to somebody who they love to watch, who in their game is constantly going, oh, man, I love this thing. This is so much fun. This is the best one of these I've played this year.
Which is an even littler guy than Kotaku.
Oh, by
They're
far.
going to a single person.
Yeah, by far. Like, and it's very disruptive to the traditional industry that Roger was just describing. So yeah, the answer is yes, Roger. I think we'll see more and more of that. But I also, all that being said, I think there is a desire to pull back from it a little, go a little more analog, a little more thoughtful. You see it in the rise of longer form content popping up from influencers still, a lot of individuals. It's almost like the rebirth of blogs in some ways. But the gaming business and the tech around gaming, I think people want to start hearing it from more expert voices, a little less just flash in the pan, I watched a 10-minute video type stuff. So like everything, there's some pullback. But I do think the general trend forward is this is sort of here to stay. And that's the way it is. And, you know, you're going to have small groups doing more coverage and less large media groups doing that coverage.
I mean, there's so much about whether or not an influencer on YouTube or anywhere really, whether they're being, you know, genuine or disingenuous. Like that aside, just that style of, I mean, you see it in Instagram ads all the time. It's like, I cannot stop wearing this sweater. This is just my favorite sweater, you know, and like finally it's back in stock. There's a sort of like, oh, this person really cares about this thing. And that
It
makes
works
me
on our
want to
brain.
care about this
Yeah.
thing.
And
I thought it was interesting in this study that the one time it doesn't work is when you feel like you experienced the entire thing by watching the video.
Yes.
Like the narrative driven story. It's like, yeah, if I had somebody read a book to me on a stream, I'd probably be less likely to buy the book because I got the story. But everything else is what Sarah's talking about. It's, ooh, that looks fun. I want to do that too, which is why Roblox, Minecraft, things that are subscription-based, never-ending, don't have an end to the story. There's always going to be something new are going to benefit from this. They're going to continue to benefit from
Yeah, I think that's true. And there are a lot more of those. And even in the indie business alone benefits from that because indie games tend to not. There are plenty of narrative indie games, but there are also lots and lots of them where it's like, it's a roguelike experience. You play 3 levels, die, and then you get a new thing, and then go try it again. That kind of rinse and repeat lends itself well to people going, oh, I think I'm going to pick this up.
It's pretty
we
simple.
See it all the
like
time.
people don't want to have the story spoiled. So don't have influencers spoil the story. You have them do an excerpt, have them do a bit of it and agree to like stop so that it whets the appetite. I bet if not that you're going to have an apocalypse again where you can test this exactly the same way. That was a pretty one-time thing, but I bet it would test out.
But there's a huge market for that because there are YouTube channels dedicated to just the in-game cutscenes, right? They just string them all together. And if you ever watch the views on them, they're like in the tens of millions because people want. Because it's like watching a show, and you don't have to play through. And some of these games are quite difficult.
Yeah, I've done it before because I was too late on getting something caught up, and we had to discuss it for end of year or something. And I'm like, I'm just going to watch all the YouTube cutscenes, and I did, and I got the entire story. Maybe even retained it more because I wasn't busy doing all the gameplay in between.
Right.
So it's a weird thing, right? Because
but you
unlike
don't have
most
to pay
things,
people to do that. We're not talking about stopping people from doing that altogether. But the question was paying influencers who do that for
right? Yeah, and honestly, what Tom does with his Daily Tech News show round or a collection of podcasts, what I do with Frog Pants, what other people do with their independent studios, podcasts, whatever they may be, we are part of what we're talking about. This is a trend toward a thing. We are in that trend. We've been in it for a while. This is that same thing. We're not NPR. We're not ESPN. We're not, whatever big tech show that used to be on cable is, without naming names. But you know what I mean? We're not those things. Instead, we're these smaller things that people trust more or like
Tech
us
TV.
or like our personalities or whatever. Tech TV, sure. Why not? I don't know why I was hesitating.
We're arguably larger than TVs.
Arguably, yeah. So you have this new thing, and we are part of that. And it's easy sometimes to forget that this exact story is us. It's who we're talking about right now.
This is
Story of us.
This is us. The Fault in Our Stars or something. Yeah.
I think those are all movies or TV shows. So GDC, or the Game Developers Conference, is going on this week in San Francisco, as it does annually. And one of the speakers is Elaine Taskin, the president of games over at NotFlix. Roger, what did he have to say?
So Taskin spoke at a side event of the conference, and one of the more interesting things he said, he started off initially with saying that we are not the Netflix of games yet, but that's where we're headed. And, quote, it is the biggest shift in entertainment, at least from his perspective, in entertainment in the last 30 years. It's less about the quality, but it's more about the friction we have on our games. In other words, how do we get it so people slide over from our streaming content into our interactive gaming content, where there isn't like a huge leap, at least for the viewer to go into. Now, Taskin mentioned that he wants to take risks and increase player density. That means having more people play. And by the end of the year, he mentioned that you'll see developments that leverage the experiences that only Netflix can do, which I think means the IP that Netflix has, as well as the system of engagement that they have on their platform, and that game controllers will be different than what they are currently. Now, the VP of Games Technology and Portfolio Development, Jeet Stroff, added to the conversation saying, in the living room, the TV is the largest real estate of entertainment in the household. And we want to reimagine what that social experience is unfold in the living room, which kind of led them into discussing more social gaming, party gaming. So games that you would have in the same way that you would do a board game night, you would do around your Netflix account or screen. And what I found interesting was that a lot of it was disruption, talk of disruption and reduced friction. Those were like the two big topics, or at least the tentpole topics that they kept bringing up in the conversation, which I, having played more than at least a half dozen of the Netflix games, I think kind of makes sense, because one of the things with the current system is if you want to play a game, you have to use your smartphone as a controller, which doesn't work with all the titles they have.
So I agree with your takeaway. I would expand it and say, it's nice to have that Netflix actually get up and talk about their game strategy. They haven't done this at all. They basically just said, we're doing this thing. And then it happened. And then they said, now we're adding to it.
They barely even said that.
They barely even did that. It's all been very...
just sort of showed up here and there.
Yeah, and we talk about it on the show all the time. Like, what is Netflix's strategy? Where do they want to go with this? And I think we've always kind of landed on they're going to experiment and see what happens, like they do with their other content, and then they will make decisions based on that. And that could mean, poof, it's gone entirely, or it's something in the middle, or it's really extreme, or it's really AAA, or we don't know kind of where it's going to end up. But to have them get up and talk about it, I think is interesting. The biggest problem I think that they run into over there is the best performing games, kind of for everybody, are the most casual fare. Nobody wants to play hardcore controller-centric games on their mobile devices. They have other places to do that stuff, and it is not the preferred place. But if you're going to match 3 candy gems together, guess what? Phones are awesome. If you're going to play a little poker game or something, phones are awesome. Casual, quick pickup games are kind of the mainstay of that. That was true before they entered that market. And if I could see their numbers, they're not sharing these, but I'll bet if I could see total players across all their selections, they would be super high on the super casual and super low on Oxenfree 2 and a few of the other games that are a little bit more involved. And I think that again, is because those games are better served on other platforms. So there's total guesswork here, but I think him getting up and talking about this and talking about disruption and that sort of thing is really just his way of saying, we're committed to this and we're going to go wherever the wind blows, and the wind is probably blowing in a more casual direction. And whether people really truly want that, gamers who are playing all kinds of other platforms and stuff, we're very slow to get excited about somebody's new mobile initiative.
Well,
but it doesn't matter. Yeah, go ahead.
And it's not all mobile games. If you actually use, at least on the beta test I was using, there's games within the actual app on the TV.
It's true.
And you wirelessly, you have to connect through the internet through your Wi-Fi, and your phone becomes a controller, so you see the game on your TV. So they have, again, very casual games, but they also have slightly more complex strategy games, which use a very simplified controller layout. And I think the idea is to do sort of hey, hey, why don't we do something that is more group oriented, be it some sort of Pictionary or maybe a trivia game or something where you can engage people that are coming over to have a party night or whatever, where it isn't just a solo affair that most video games are sort of built around, like it's the one person with a controller.
They're kind of they actually are missing. Okay, so I'm glad you brought this up because I think
they real quickly they had a change of strategy that explains this. Mike Verdu got Netflix games off the ground and had a mobile strategy and was like, we're going to give people free mobile games, and then Taskin came in and said, I want to do things different. So that is part of the reason that you're seeing both of those things.
What they should do is try to emulate the Jackbox people. Jackbox Games
Definitely. I was going to say that earlier. You don't know Jack.
You don't know Jack.
Yeah. People would gather around their TVs with their phones out like they do with Jackbox stuff. The Jackbox Games, there's 9 packages now, and they have a unified launcher on Steam now, and I think consoles as well, where all the games you
play
own
it with
just
our
launch.
Family on their Xbox, I think it is. Could be a PlayStation. I don't even know.
And you can piecemeal each game. You're like, oh, that looks like fun. Let's buy it for $10 or whatever. You can't. So they've kind of got their own launcher within a launcher now. And the games themselves are just so perfect for, hey, there's 6 of us here. Fire one up. And they're all so well made, all so wonderful to play. The fact that they either haven't partnered with them or just straight up copied that method and realized that this isn't about me playing Pac-Man with a phone as a remote on my TV. There's better ways to play that.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, look at all the IPs we have. In that alone, we have a trivia game to beat all trivia games when it comes to people who are into streaming content. Do that. People would flock to that. I would play that right now.
From this VentureBeat article that Netflix doesn't know what its strategy for gaming is. It knows that it is on everybody's television and phone, that it has a bunch of people in its audience that play games, and it has a ton of IP that would be useful for games. And so they're trying to figure out, I bet we could be the Netflix of games before someone else is, because we have this advantage, but they haven't got a strategy for how to do that. They're still trying to figure out what that is. Doesn't mean they won't figure it out, but I got a very clear message from this, like, oh, you don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, they don't know. And again, I think that's consistent with what we've always said. They don't really know. I know that they want to know and that they'll probably get there, but right now
they're like, on paper, we could be the Netflix of gaming somehow.
The controller needs to move off, or the control scheme needs to move off the phone and into a remote. So, like, whatever you use, whether it's your smart TV or your game,
for certain kinds of games,
for certain things,
if that's what Netflix should be used for, though.
Yeah, fair point.
It's. The thing is, like, the best games that I've played on it are the ones. There's one that's literally just kind of a drop match game, but it's with fruit that's underwater. It's like some melon something, and my wife loves it. It's like there's a very zen quality about it.
A mobile game?
No, it's on. It's on
the TV.
It's on the TV. It's in the app. And it is, we use her phone. I use my phone, and you sync with it. You only have you have your standard Tetris control, right? You have 4 directions and a push button to drop the fruit into the right slot or push it up. And it is just one of the most wonderful, most engaging, and time-wasting games. Because it's so easy to get into, but it's very hard. Like,
frictionless.
What's that? Very frictionless.
Easy to play, hard to master.
Yes. Well, with that board game, very simple to play, but hard to master. And we love it.
Yeah, no, it's great. I still think that there's stuff to mine there. I just hope they've got some of the right ideas. And we'll be the first to play it and try and talk about it here. So
Jackbox, I'm telling you, do the Jackbox style.
Do the Jackbox way. Those guys are smart.
Jackbox.
Don't buy them though. Don't go ruin another company by absorbing them. Just
license. Just license.
License, exactly. That's a partnership I can
buy.
Bethesda, the game world.
Thank you. Good idea.
Well, be smart like our emailers are. And in that vein, let's check out the mailbag.
Mark had some thoughts on our discussion around fair use and training data. He writes, AI training models are not humans, so there is no intention. But if we extend the idea of a computer program learning the way a human does, we can make some interesting comparisons. If I study dance with Gregory Hines or learn guitar by watching Nancy Wilson, you're dating yourself, Mark, I am taking pieces from here and there and incorporating them into my developing style. Is my style derivative of something else? Have I made it mine, or am I a Nancy Wilson clone? The viewers will determine that, and the lawyers will enforce whatever laws are appropriate. What we are measuring here is output, not the input. I think this should also be true regarding AI usage. The laws should regulate the output. Some laws are already in place in this regard, and that's where I think the focus should be. If a company uses a tool to imitate someone or a style or a voice, that output falls under a couple of already established laws. New laws may need to be written to acknowledge new technologies, but the regulation should be on the output. Now, Mark is saying what the big tech companies are saying, which is it's fair use to train my model because my model isn't copying it. My model can output things. And if my model outputs something infringing, yes, that is infringing. And there are existing laws for that. What I was acknowledging on the show was a lot of people don't agree. They don't agree that the existing law is appropriate. A lot of people say, I don't want you training your model on my data without my permission. And I know Mark says, I think that's fine, but a lot of people don't think it's fine. And that's why I think we need a new law to say, hey, let's all agree whether that's fine or not, and then enshrine it into the law that says what the rules of the road are, because a lot of people who are willing to give away their intellectual property under a Creative Commons license don't want it to be available for training data. Now, Mark, you could reasonably say they're wrong and they should want it and they shouldn't have a problem with it. But the fact of the matter is a very large number of people, not all of which are celebrities and rich, don't want their data used for training AI models. And even if you disagree with them, I think we have to listen to them.
Yeah, that's important.
Well said. It is. I get what Mark's saying. I do.
Yeah, no, it's to Mark's credit, he did a very good job explaining that side of the argument. It was very, very well put.
Yeah. I would also like to study dance under Gregory Hines.
See, you'll need AI to do that.
Well,
and virtual reality.
Right. But again, it's like there are a lot of gray areas. It's like if I don't know, study videos over and over featuring Gregory Hines just being like a really great dancer, and I get like 50% as good, is he going to be like, well, hold on a second, I think you're like trying to be me a little bit too much type thing. It's apples and oranges kind of, but I see where, yes, this is going to get messy. It's going to get darker before it gets lighter.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep. Remember, if you have thoughts on The Wizard of Oz or anything else, send your comments to us, feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com.
Follow The Wizard of Oz.
Scott Johnson, you are our wizard, all right?
Oh, jeez. All right.
You're the wonderful wizard of
You're the wizard,
frog pants.
Scotty.
Yeah. I feel like, that's a new cartoon you should, or something you should draw. Something about a wizard in a can or something.
I'll get on
but,
it. Yeah, I like it.
When you're not doing that and you're not with us, what are you up to?
Well, I'm up to all kinds of things, and sometimes I can get real specific about what show I think people should go check out if they're like curious about other stuff I do. But instead, I'm going to give people the choice, and all you got to do this choice is to go to frogpants.com/podcasts, and bam, they're all there, laid out in a big grid. And you look at them and you go, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to click that. And then you may sub to all of them. There's even a feed there for all of them. They all come in one feed. Or if you want an individual show, you can do that. But you can find everything I'm up to, all the different shows I make, with lots of great friends and co-hosts over at frogpants.com/podcasts.
Indeed. All right. Well, we need to name this show. Now, some of you watching or listening already know what the name of the show is, and well, good for you. We don't. So we needed the people watching live to help us out with that, and they go to showbot.tv. That's DTNS.showbot.tv, where Larry in Atlanta, Stealth Dave, and I Wear Lederhosen are tied in a fight for the most votes for the title of the show. Larry in Atlanta with, you want AI fries with that? Yeah. Stealth Dave takes it another level. May I take your order? Get it? AI take your order? Yeah.
That's fun. That's fun.
Bad.
Yeah, that's pretty
that
good.
one.
I Wear Lederhosen says, hold my beer. Don't make your customers your QA department.
Wow.
maybe not as fun, but still, it's apt for the story we talked about. Zoe Brings Bacon following up with Spatial is Special. We got Batfink with NotFlix of gaming.
Yeah, it's not bad.
NotFlix of gaming.
Love VR for what it is.
It's true.
Yeah. Do the Jackbox.
It's like your kids. Love your kids for who they are.
That's
right. That's right.
Well, unless they're crappy kids.
Well, that's true.
And then, you
Listen,
tell them to, to shape
you still
up
love
or
them.
ship out.
Yes. But if my kids turn out to be like Damien
Tough
from The
love
Omen, I'm going to go like,
Well,
hey,
that's a
I'm
little
getting in my
different.
car and
Love them for being a demon. Roger, I think that's
Yeah.
what.
The
I know.
think
That's
that's what
where
we've all learned.
unconditional love gets a little dicey. Where you're like,
it
but
becomes
my
a little
child
conditional.
is the devil, actually.
Well, I still love them.
Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do?
as long as,
I
your head
got
doesn't
stuck
turn
with
around.
him.
Oh, wait, that's a different movie.
Very, very different film, Roger. Very different.
When your head comes away from your body, you
I
can't
actually watched
love
the
your
original
child.
Omen recently, and I was like, I don't remember it being like this. I don't know. It's
The Omen?
That heavy.
Oh man,
It is Omen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sarah, what title should we pick?
Damien. No, I'm just kidding. Badfink 2001 is on a roll actually this week. NotFlix of gaming is what we went
Yes,
with.
Yeah.
Fake 2001. Woo.
Good one.
Now, Laminar Rainbow is a star because Laminar Rainbow continually gives us super stickers, and we appreciate that on our YouTube. It's a little bit of money here and there, but it helps pay the bills. Helps keep Joe operating our YouTube channel and more. Thanks to everybody who watches us on LinkedIn as well as on Twitch. Zoe Brings Bacon cheering us with bits. Larry in Atlanta back for the 52nd month. Pele Glendale cheering us with 100 bits. Rebel Spawn subscribing with Prime and giving us a follow. One Punch Mac followed us as well. Thanks to everybody who supports us however they can, including our Patreon, patreon.com/DTNS.
Speaking of support, we would love for you to show your support for us with a t-shirt or a hoodie or a mug or a mouse pad. We've got all sorts of stuff. And if you already
What's
have
that
something...
glass that looks like a soda can with the sarsaparilla looking logo on it? Who drew that, Scott?
Oh, interesting.
I don't know where that came from, but boy, is
that's
it nice.
Fun. That is
It's so
fun.
sophisticated yet whimsical.
Whimsical, yet that's my whole thing.
So
but that was me, and I'm pretty proud of it. So
love it.
people you should drink out of it. It's good for you somehow.
Yeah.
Hydrate.
Or I don't know, make it a candle holder. I mean, there's so many
do
things
that
you could
too.
do with it.
It would look good that way.
Yeah, our new DTNS Live logo is on a lot of our new merch. If you want to be in the modern times, then consider getting one of these or gift it to somebody that would like it. Thank you so much. Good ways to support us, and if there's something that you're wearing, maybe you've got one of Scott's new tumblers. Maybe you, I don't know, you put a birthday cake inside of it and put a candle on top, whatever. If you want to send us a photo of that, we would be tickled. And if it's okay if we show it on DTNS Live and you give us permission, we would be even happier. So
Yeah,
thank
RW
you.
Nash put a photo of his T-shirt that he got in the Patreon chat, the community chat.
There you go.
But I forgot to ask him if it was okay to show it, so I don't know. How to show it, but I'll ask him.
Yeah.
But you can just let us know.
You can share it and say, please don't share, or say, hey, share with the world. But in any case, dailytechnewsshow.com/store is where to check out the latest merch. You can also watch us live. We are live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. That's 2000 UTC. And you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. Back doing it all again tomorrow. Hope to see you then.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.